Okay. All right, so we will get started. So thank you for joining me for today's presentation. Um, a lot of you guys have come in from interstate and across the country. A few of you guys are here from the UK and North America. So welcome. And yeah, if you have any questions during the meeting, I'm sure you could just pop it into the chat or you can wait till the end as well. And if you are watching us on the replay, um, then you can obviously send me an email after the fact as well. So again, welcome, and we are going to get started. I'm just going to share my screen because I prepared some slides that I think will be more interesting than staring at my face. And that should be on your guys' screen now. If you can't see anything or if anything's not making sense, just make sure either unmute yourselves and let me know or pop it into the chat box as well. So, today's workshop is called Reclaim Your Strength, Energy, and Confidence as part of my new online coaching program called the Perimenopause Project. So, I wanted to share as part of Exercise Right Week with ESSA because they are my governing body, and being an exercise physiologist. Yeah, if there's any way that I can kind of share my passion and my knowledge with everyone that can help people out, then I want to do that as much as I can. So, here we are. So what got me into this sort of topic, we'll call it, I am getting numerous women that keep coming up to me. So whether this is school mums in the pickup line or just friends at different outings, and it is them basically saying what the actual bleep is going on with my body because they've seen me talking about perimenopause a lot now. I feel like I'm getting the word out there and it's not any more of a taboo that we can't secretly discuss. It can be discussed out in the open. But now people are realizing, holy crap, what the heck is going on with my body? So I'm just going to admit some more people into the forum here. All right. So there is so much confusion. There's so much conflicting advice, so much unknown as well. And I think that that's just really sad. I know when I've talked about it with my mum, she was just saying how back in her time, so my mum's in her mid 60s, back in her time, she's like, nobody talked about it. Nobody discussed it. It wasn't even a thing. We didn't even know about it. So there's so much that we just can't figure out. So some of those things are questions like, why are things feeling different? Why can't I sleep? Why can't I lose weight? And why does everything annoy me? So that's probably one of the biggest things that I'm going through is things that never used to bother me just bother me 100 times worse than ever before. And this is exactly why I am here because I want to help. I want to spread the word. I want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable to talk about it. It's not all in your head. I don't know everything. I'm not an absolute expert, but if I can open up the conversation and help move things along, then that is my job done. Now, help clarify what we can be doing to improve our perimenopause experience. Hang on, let me just go. There we go. I want to help clarify what it is that we can be doing to improve the perimenopause experience, help create a safe space that we can discuss our experiences, and help give women a strategy to keep them on the path to a better experience. So we can't avoid perimenopause, we can't stop it, there's no cure. There's nothing wrong with us in that sense, but if we can help give everyone a better experience with it, then I think we should try our best to do that. So, a little bit about my journey and what got me here is first of all, I am a 44-year-old mother of a very energetic 5-year-old boy. So, I gave birth to him when I was 39, and my perimenopause symptoms began about 2 or 3 years later. So, that brought on the question, was I experiencing perimenopause or just the effects of being a 41-year-old mother of a toddler? Because let's be honest, those symptoms are all very similar. So there's less sleep, the feeling like I couldn't actually catch up on sleep, even when I was sort of getting a good night's sleep or my little one was sleeping through the night. I was gaining weight when nothing changed. And the weight gain just sort of appeared overnight. I can literally pinpoint when I started to feel like I just literally gained 10 kilos overnight. With that came a decrease in my confidence and my self-worth. So I wasn't happy with how I was looking, but it was also starting to feel really dumb at my job. So things weren't coming as easily as it used to. My schedule was becoming something that I was resenting, and I didn't want to be seeing clients if I could be having breakfast with my kid instead. So that is something that weighs pretty heavy on my heart, and knowing that I was missing out on little moments, even if he was being a brat and he was being annoying, if I was missing out on all those little moments because I was seeing clients. My energy was usually really good until about 10 or 11 a.m. And then all of a sudden it would come crashing down and I was done for the day. Even after a decent night's sleep, I found that once I got that fatigue in my body, so like before lunchtime, I pretty much couldn't recover for the rest of the day. No amount of coffee, or even if I had a little lie down, I just felt like I just couldn't get ahead and get my energy back. Recovering from a few wines was a lot harder. And after having a few wines, the chance of having a really good night's sleep was pretty much nothing. So having a few wines just wasn't becoming worth it anymore. It was sort of like, if I have if I have a glass or two of wine, I know that I'm not going to sleep. So what's the point in even putting myself through that? And also my mood swings were horrendous. So even if, being angry or upset is legit, the rage that I was experiencing was literally an out of body experience. So the same shame and guilt afterwards that would like after if I had lost my temper, so the shame and guilt was adding on top of my already low self-confidence. So it was not a very fun time. So I finally decided that enough was enough. And I took a long, hard look at my weekly routine, my monthly routine, and how my habit and all the habits that I had fell into and where I was letting things slide. So some things that I was noticing was my workouts were a lot shorter than they used to be. My meals were always too big. I wasn't getting the protein amounts that I thought I was. Fasting all morning clearly wasn't working for me. I was barely hitting 1.5 liters of water a day. My sleep was more broken with nightly wakes from either myself or my kid. So if my little guy woke up, that was one thing, but quite often he'd sleep through and I was still up in the middle of the night and couldn't get back to sleep. So then I finally made the changes that I had to make. What I did was I took myself on as my own client, and it was the best thing that I could have done. So here I am, a trainer. I've been working with women for over 20 years, but I wasn't actually practicing the things that I was coaching to them. So I finally decided I'm going to treat myself like one of my clients. What would I tell them? And then not only did the changes improve almost every area of my life, but I also realized that I'm actually still a pretty good coach and I actually know my stuff. So I'm not as dumb as I was thinking that I was. Now, all of this is what I'm going to share with you guys today. So I want to share everything that I know and everything that I have experienced. So please stick around and I hope that you can see the value in what I'm about to show you. Now, I have written these slides out because I tend to go off on tangents. So I'm hoping that the slides aren't too boring, but it also helps keep me on track. And what you can expect from today's session is an overview of what is happening during perimenopause, common symptoms of perimenopause, and how having a simple structure around exercise, nutrition, and stress is going to improve your perimenopause experience and set you up for a healthier and happier self for the future. So as you know, because you've registered for this, my name is Jo. I got my Bachelor of Human Kinetics in Vancouver from the University of British Columbia. So I graduated in 2004 and then went on to complete my Master's in Rehab Sciences. I think I completed that in 2014 when I actually finished it, so 10 years later, and then got my accreditation as an exercise physiologist here in Australia. And more recently, my perimenopause coaching certification, which was just a bit of an upskill, kind of everything I already knew, but amplified and more specific to the perimenopause and menopause spectrum. Now, how I ended up in the perimenopause space was after training clients for 22 years, my demographic always gravitated towards women. I then narrowed down my niche and my client base into the pre and postnatal space. And this is when I actually fell in love even more so with my job, working with clients one-on-one, the physiology, the anatomy, but as well as that human connection. So being able to help women who felt quite vulnerable and broken. So after you've had kids, quite often women are just in pieces. So physically and mentally, and being able to be that support for them was really special for me. And I realized that once I went through that all myself as well, that everything just started to really click as to why this work was really important. So This is also when I realized that no, we don't all have the same 24 hours in a day. And I used to hear this a lot in the fitness industry with people who were finding excuses not to get their exercise in. And you'd hear trainers saying, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And it's like, no, jerk off. We don't all have the same 24 hours in a day. My 24 hours are quite different than yours. And my partner's 24 hours are quite different than mine. And we all do not have the same schedule. So mothers and women are a very special breed of human. Whether you have kids or not, I think we can all agree that we just hold a lot more than everybody else in the world, and that we do need to be nurtured and supported on a whole other level, if that is possible. Now I'm going to go through, no, so sorry. So now that I am going through perimenopause myself and I've done my certification, I feel like I can start bringing everything together full circle. So now that I've got a bit more of that experience, um, oops, sorry. There we go. So no, I don't know everything, but yes, I am here to help and support you. So there's going to be a lot of things that I still don't know, because there's just so much more research and more funding going into everything. So hopefully, as more of a global thing, we as a united front can just sort of get more and more answers for everyone. Now, perimenopause in a nutshell, we all sort of know a little bit about it. I'm not going to sit here and go in through like super, super specific things, but basically, perimenopause is a period before menopause. So it's the transition phase leading up to menopause, typically occurring in your 40s, but it can last sort of 5 to 15 years. So some people might have a few years of symptoms and then all of a sudden they stop getting their period and they're in menopause. Some people might have 8 or 9 years of lots and lots of fluctuations and lots of symptoms. Menopause itself is landmarked when there has been a full 12 months with no period. So you don't actually know when you're in menopause until you've actually gone that whole length of time without a period. But that being said, this can take, 5 to 15 years. So it can start in your 30s and it can last up until your 50s. So I've had some clients tell me that up until their late 40s, everything was fine. There was nothing different. And then all of a sudden, all hell broke loose. Their periods went all over the shop, mood swings, all these symptoms for about 3 or 4 years. And then they didn't get their period and things sort of settled down again. So everyone's experience is going to be quite different. What happens is our estrogen and progesterone levels sort of fluctuate. So they go up and down with a gradual decline, but they fluctuate quite a bit during that time until they are at a lower level. Testosterone has more of a gradual, steady decline. But all of this brings on an enormous amount of unpredictable symptoms. So I've got a few graphs that I found off the Menopause Australia website, and it just shows you, I think just the visual is really powerful for how messed up everything can be. So in this first one, it shows us that incline with puberty and with estrogen and progesterone kind of going up and down with that gradual increase. And then we're in our reproductive years, but then perimenopause hits and all those up and downs lead to that gradual decline in our hormones. So it's with those up and down fluctuations that a lot of the symptoms are just unpredictable. So we can't say, oh, tomorrow I'm going to feel like this, but next week I'll feel like that. It might be completely new every month or every few days or every few weeks. So that's kind of the fun part about perimenopause, is that we just have no idea how we're going to feel. And this graph too, I found there's a few people who I do follow that are quite well, I guess, researched and backed in the menopause space. And they've referred to perimenopause as essentially reverse puberty. So whether or not that's true, if you just sort of have that visual, it all makes sense. Our bodies are adapting to get us into our reproductive years, and now we're on the down phase of that. So it kind of made more sense to me if you think about teenage hormones and everything that we go through and the crap you put your parents through, and now it's sort of like karma coming back to get us again. So the next graph is just, again, another visual of the differences between the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone decline. So you can see testosterone in the yellow is just a much smoother gradual decline, and then estrogen and progesterone are there to just really mess with us. But you can just see it's that sort of up and down, no idea what's going to happen after this, and then all of a sudden it just kind of smooths out. Now, this is just a graph. It's just, a general sort of idea, so you can have a visual. But yeah, so it kind of just gives you that idea of what can be happening. Everyone is going to be different, And then what we want to do is help you guys minimize the symptoms and deal with them and have some coping strategies. Now, here is a list that is huge, but I feel like it's still not complete. So these are some of the symptoms that we can experience during perimenopause. And this is where I think they're just exacerbated by different things. But also a lot of these are going to happen no matter what. So just as a side effect of aging, but also if you've got kids, you can see how they're going to play a factor in adding to these symptoms. So hot flashes or hot flushes, night sweats, sleep disorders, mood swings, irritability, dryness, low libido, fatigue, weight gain, belly fat gain, muscle tension, anxiety, depression, joint pain, memory loss. You can also see how all of these symptoms might be adding to your anxiety and depression and your fatigue because it is exhausting. So on the other side of the list, there's no order to this list. I just literally did a poll and then I've gone through my textbooks and research, and these were like the top like 40 symptoms that kept coming up. Burning tongue is on the list, and this came up a lot in one of the groups that I am in. Super random, but a lot of people were experiencing it. Itchy skin and breast and pain tenderness as well. The other one that has surprised me is heart palpitations. That is a very, very common one as well. And I think possibly that we're just more sensitive to feeling all of these sensations as well. So we have a lot of things to look forward to. So if we can help minimize or at least lessen the impact of all of these symptoms, I think we'll be making a good step in the right direction. Now, one of the main not issues, but because I am an exercise physiologist, this is probably one of the main things that I focus quite a bit on with my clients is the muscle mass declining. Now, as I just mentioned, a lot of this is happening because of our age. Once we hit about 35, our metabolism starts to decrease, our muscle mass goes down. So it's not necessarily caused by perimenopause, but it is accentuated by it because it's harder for us to put on muscle. Our estrogen levels mess up a lot of things that make it harder to so harder to put on muscle, but also to keep that muscle and the muscle strength. And with this comes an increase in overall body fat. So we're losing our muscle mass, but then we're also gaining body fat. With that loss of muscle mass, you're most likely going to have an increased like aches and pains and your joint stiffness. So if your muscles are not keeping as strong and your joints and tendons are sort of losing their strength, then your joints are going to take a bit more force and trauma. So more stiffness, more aches and pains. That can be brought on by the composition of our joints and muscles, but also just that lack of strength makes us more vulnerable to those symptoms as well. And again, with my exercise physiology background, pelvic floor is definitely worth a mention. And this isn't to scare you, but it's also just to prepare you. So even if you haven't had kids or you've never been pregnant or gone through a birth, or even if your kids are already 20 years old, this is going to be important because we want to make sure that we can have a strong, healthy, functioning pelvic floor. And our pelvic floor is a system. So it's not just one muscle. Think of it as a system. But as we get older, and estrogen declines, our tissues lose their contractility and their elasticity. And this goes throughout the whole body, but the pelvic floor is not an exception. So we're going to lose our strength, but we lose the ability for everything to function well together. Now, I have a client at the moment who is in her late 70s, and this last 6 months, she has been experiencing prolapse symptoms, and it scared the bejesus out of her because she had no idea what was going on. She didn't know what it was. She didn't know what was going on. She didn't know how it could happen. But you don't need to have, having gone through like either whatever happened during childbirth. This is a lot of times when pelvic floor symptoms appear, but this lady had none of that. Her kids are in their 40s, and now that she's just a bit older, everything is just starting to lose its capability. So she's experiencing prolapse symptoms, and I had to go and share my story with her to be like, you're not broken, you're not an alien. This is what's going on, and these are some things that you can do to improve it. So, but yeah, imagine being in your late 70s and having no idea of anything that was going on and that it could be fixed. She thought she was going to be going in for surgery. And she's been working with a pelvic floor PT and alongside some of the stuff that we've implemented, and she's starting to manage those symptoms. So it is worth mentioning because if you end up similar to her in your 60s or 70s and you start to experience these symptoms, it can be quite confronting and quite uncomfortable. So you don't want to be not having the confidence to go out in public if you're fear of leaking or having other symptoms as well. So it is worth mentioning because I feel like if it's part of your training, you have a bit more experience with it. You're not starting from scratch. If you do get symptoms, your body is a bit sort of like ahead of the game in how to help correct it. All right. And the other biggest thing that I hear with perimenopause is energy. So people losing their energy, not being able to get through the whole day. Overall, the energy is lower, but definitely getting those crashes after lunchtime. The mental load and decision fatigue that we go through. So whether you are running your household, working full time, if you've got a high stress job, I'm at the moment, our dog is getting a bit older. He's becoming a bit more of another thing that we have to manage, which is fine, but it's just another thing added to the plate. The physical stamina, so just being physically able to keep up with either your kids or with a long day, and just not feeling like you're crumbling onto the couch by 4 p.m. Brain power is often gone early in the day. You might get to notice sort of when you're at your peak in terms of your ability to just think and be creative and be on the ball at work. Um, Waking up feeling tired. So even if you've had a good night's sleep, you wake up and you feel like you've still like halfway through the night, and just overall sleep disturbances. So it becomes harder to get a good night's sleep and to stay asleep. So that's kind of one of the things that is probably most noticeable is that back in the day, if you were tired and you had a nap or you just got to bed earlier, you'd usually catch up on your sleep and feel better. Whereas now it's a lot harder, or you might have a good night's sleep but still wake up feeling tired. So, yay for us. There's so much that we get to look forward to. And so today I'm going to share with you the three-pillar framework that I have created for clients inside my online group coaching program, which I've called the Perimenopause Project. So I use the word project because I feel like we need to be our own best project. So I've put the word you in the middle, which is you, and then all those three pillars and how they overlap to become the best possible version of you. So I know that this diagram is super simple, but I wanted to keep it really simple. So the three pillars are exercise, movement, nutrition, and sleep and stress. So we're going to dive into that, and I'm going to share some stories with you guys as well. So with 22 years experience as an ex-phys, I've seen how each of these three pillars work best simultaneously together in order to yield the best results for my clients. When we have missing pieces, things just don't click as well as they could. So with that being said, we want to try to get little bits of each piece working better, but it's not necessarily an all or none. If you need to chip away at little sections at a time, that is okay. Now, again, I've been working as a trainer for a very long time. When it comes to exercise, here are the biggest obstacles that I hear over and over again, especially from women. One of them is lack of time. So just, I don't have enough time. There's no time in the day. I didn't have time to work out this week. And I'm always surprised because I'm like, in that whole week, there was no time that you could have worked out, like not at all. But that's how they perceive it. There's just no time. The other thing which ties into that is the unpredictable schedules, and that can lead to an all or nothing outcome. And what I mean by that is, let's say you've got a class booked in for Monday night, and then all of a sudden your partner is going to be home late from work, or there's really bad traffic and he can't make it home in time, and now you can no longer go to that class because your kids are at home and you can't leave them home on their own. So that's unpredictable. It wasn't planned, but now that led to you doing nothing. So rather than you getting to their class, there was no class. And if you know how much that can be stressful, add on top of that the cancellation fee that you've probably had to pay for that class now, and it just adds to that whole other stress and that mental exhaustion that we can feel. And the other side of that is the overwhelm and being unsure of what to do. And we're going to get into this a little bit later as well, because it can be overwhelming. There's so many different things being told and things that we're hearing. We just don't know what to do. So those are the three biggest obstacles that I hear as to why people don't exercise. And if you consider this phase of life and all that comes with it, so like I mentioned, we've got an older dog. You might have your parents are getting older. Your kids might be teenagers running amok on the weekend, or you might have a 5-year-old like myself who he's still 5 years old. He needs our constant care and support and supervision. So it's no wonder that women can feel like this, with that overwhelm and just trying to do the right thing, and then other things always impede our ability to get things done. So the goals that I would think everyone has in mind with exercising in perimenopause, pretty straightforward, but also really important to highlight them. So the number one reason for myself, in particular with my clients, is muscle mass and bone density. You're probably seeing this thrown around quite a bit, but we want to be strong and dense in our bodies because that is what's going to help us stay strong and able as we get older. And I'm not talking about when you're 90, I'm talking about in 5 to 10 years from now. So if you're 40, when you're 45 to 50. If you're already 50, when you're 60. My parents are late 60s. My dad's just turned 70. I would like to think they're in pretty good condition, but I also want them to maintain their muscle mass, maintain that density. If you get a little bit fat, that's okay. I want you guys to be heavy, dense, and strong. The number two goal would be to reduce aches, pains, and injury. So everyone has some sort of ache and pain and injury. But if you are stronger and more capable in your body, you're most likely going to have less of an occurrence of those injuries and less severity. So you might have, let's say, a bit of a hamstring strain, but you'll get over it quicker. Your body will adapt a lot faster, and it might be a lot less than if you fully rupture your hamstring or have a bigger injury as well. Cardiovascular health is going to be really important. We don't want to neglect it, but we want to make sure we are challenging our cardiovascular systems for a few different reasons, but also in perimenopause. Again, the lovely friend of estrogen, when that declines, we use a lot of that protection that it provides. So your blood vessels, your heart muscle itself, you want to make sure that we are exercising it and doing what we can to keep it in shape and to keep it working. And it becomes harder and harder for us to sort of maintain that as we get older. So we want to start that from younger and keep that going as we get older so that our bodies are adapting and hopefully keeping up with the standards of where we want to be with that. Now, energy levels and stability. So having energy, but also having stable energy. So not overexerting yourself if it means that you're going to crash later. So I've had women when I used to work in the gym, they'd come to the early morning classes and they'd smash themselves. And then they were saying that they could barely make it to lunchtime. And that could be for a number of reasons, but possibly maybe those really high intensity workouts 5 mornings a week, maybe not working for them. Or play around with different times of day to see if that can help stabilize your energy. So I know for me personally, I've been trying to do a little workout before I go for school pickup. And that actually just helps me switch my mindset. I'm usually in a bit of a better mood. My head's a bit clearer and I have more energy for the afternoon. So I haven't been sitting on my laptop for 5 hours before I picked up my little one. I actually went out. I ride my bike to pick him up. So sometimes I'll leave 15 minutes earlier and ride around the neighborhood and then go get him. And even something like that is enough to just sort of boost my energy and help me be a bit more stable for the afternoon. Same note is your mental health, anxiety, and brain fog reduction. So if you can get a workout in and notice that it helps sort of decrease your stress, decrease sort of what's going on in your head, and just help boost your mood, it can have a huge impact. Yeah, so if I'm feeling stressed or really frazzled, I actually go for a run. I do interval runs. And I find as long as I get out the door, I'm okay. So getting my shoes on and getting out the door is a hard part, but doing a higher intensity session, even if it's like for 15 minutes, like not very long, it instantly, my head clears up, my mood improves, whatever was really bothering me or stressing me out just seems to be not important for at least a few more hours, and I can think more clearly and then go back to it. So that's sort of my part of it, how I reduce my stress. And then obviously body composition. So everyone wants to sort of make sure they're not getting too fat, but we also want to make sure that we're preserving our lean mass. So I put on the bottom here that maintaining is just as important as reducing our regression. So what I mean by that is you might be exercising and on a new training plan and, doing, let's say, weights twice a week and going for a run twice a week, but nothing seems to be changing. But what's happening is you might not be losing body fat or gaining muscle that you can tell, but you're not regressing. So you could be maintaining. So you're not losing muscle mass. You just might not be gaining muscle mass, but you're not losing it. And that is just as important as putting it on. You want to make sure that you're not losing it. And same with our body fat as well. You might not be seeing the changes in your clothing or like you're losing body fat, but the important thing is you're not gaining it. So sometimes you're just in that plateau sort of area of your workouts, and that's actually not a bad place to be because you're not regressing. So I hope that makes sense. If not, just let me know. But I think that is just really important to note. I used to have a client in Vancouver, so this was like 15 years ago, and she was getting frustrated that she wasn't losing any more weight. But we went back and we had a look, and I said, well, over the last 6 months, you haven't gained weight, which is great because she was gaining weight quite steadily. And I said, you're getting stronger and your pants are a whole size smaller. So she was having changes, but she just wasn't seeing it on the actual scale. But she didn't really realize that, well, actually, if I wasn't coming to the gym twice a week, I probably would be putting on a lot more body fat and not as strong as I am today. So I think it's important, yeah, we don't want to be regressing. And yeah, so don't think that it's a failure if you're not seeing those changes. All right, I am talking a lot, so hopefully you guys are still with me. Um, so the first pillar is exercise. So our movement and strength. Now, strength foundations is how we prep the body in order to be able to build up our base of strength first. So everywhere we look at the moment, we're seeing that we need to lift heavy, but it's just unclear of what that actually means. So it doesn't mean that I want you to go to the gym and pick up the heaviest weight if you haven't been weight training already. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be lifting weights in order to lift heavy. So lifting heavy means to lift to your body's capacity, lifting to failure. So stimulating yourself enough that you're actually getting the muscle growth promotion happening. So progressive overload is that over time, you need to keep moving the needle. So while you might get out walking and doing mat Pilates, which are both great, we need to ensure that you are getting enough stimulus to increase strength, increase and maintain your muscle mass. So preventing that decline. So let's say, like in my program, I've got a whole 12-week foundations program built into it so that you can start from your body weight exercises, increase the progression over 12 weeks and get you ready to lift heavier. So if you're not doing any resistance training, you don't want to just jump into the gym and pick up the heaviest weight. You're going to start priming your body to get used to the load and used to the stimulus and do it at a nice steady progression. So we want to make sure that we build up your foundation. And then once those get easier, you want to keep slowly adding to it. So either adding a bit more weight or adding a bit more intensity in other ways. And that's what we call progressive overload. So if you are doing body weight exercises, that is great. But if you can do 1,000 repetitions, then it's probably not enough of a stimulus. So we want to make sure that we are progressively adding more intensity. So that is how we're going to gain our strength. With movement and strength, we want to incorporate mobility into our weekly sessions as well. So mobility can be added into your workout. So as part of your warm up or in and throughout exercises, it doesn't have to be its own workout. There are lots of ways that you can add mobility into the weekly sessions. So all the workouts that I've put together in my program include mobility throughout the session. So you don't have to add a separate mobility day on a Friday or something. It's already included, mixed in with your strength training. Now, pelvic floor, as we mentioned, there should be some focus on incorporating your pelvic floor health and function into your weekly routine, preferably on a daily basis. But as you sort of learn more about the pelvic floor and how you can incorporate it, you can literally just do a few things every day to help improve it. And you can also include this as part of your workout as well. So it doesn't have to be like a pelvic floor workout. You can incorporate certain components of it with the exercises that you're already doing. And that's amazing if you can do that. Kill like 5 birds with 1 stone in one workout. Now, another component that we want to include is power training. So this doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and do box jumps and throw dead balls all over the place. We want to introduce it the same way with strength training. So light intensity plyometrics for bone density. So plyometrics is like jumping and impact. So it sounds scary and complicated, but it can be just a few minutes added to each workout. And once you do it, and once you start adding it in, I truly believe that you're going to start to feel pretty empowered and it's going to become a favorite. So I've got 2 separate groups of women that I train in my home gym, and we do about 12-minute circuit at the end of the session that we include different variations of plyometrics. So whether that's throwing a medicine ball to the ground or adding in little jumps, adding in assisted jumps, but little bits of impact and cardio training. But yeah, we make it fun. And then that comes into the next component as well, which is our cardio. So you can add power and cardio together and come up with a little sort of interval session at the end of your workout. Walk, run intervals, bike riding, light intensity plyos for power training and bone density. So that is where we're going to come, everything comes together. But this is also where it can be quite overwhelming. So I know I've been talking quite a bit about different types of exercise and including it into your workouts. You can structure a workout that has a little bit of everything in it. So you don't have to do different workouts for different components. Join it all together. You can do a 30-minute workout and you've hit kind of everything in one. So the next pillar is our nutrition and perimenopause. So for the most part, when people are focusing on their nutrition, one of the main goals is going to be their energy. So they get huge energy crashes in the afternoon. How can they improve that? Boosting your overall nutritional intake. So eating a lot of variety, changing up what fruits and vegetables you're having and what types of carbohydrates and proteins. So just changing up, giving yourself more variety to add the nutritional components. Improving your digestion. So this comes up a lot with my perimenopause clients is that they're getting quite bloated, or things aren't flowing through as much as they should. And improving the body composition to feel more comfortable in your body. So body composition is always going to come up. I don't want that to be in a toxic way, but we do want to be maintaining, a healthy body weight, but also what you feel comfortable with. So we want to make sure that our nutrition is maximizing that and working in our favor, especially if you're making an effort with your exercise and your stress management. We want your nutrition to complement all of that as well. So the what and the how. I'm going to give you guys just a brief overview and then just some examples of what that can look like for you. So if you're on social media at the moment, protein is everywhere. So everything you're seeing right now is telling you to eat more and more protein. So I love that it's getting more awareness, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. So ideally, 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight is like for maintenance of your lean mass. So to help with your muscle retention. So I would get everyone to aim for 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. So what does that look like? Let's say you weigh 60 kilos. You want to be having 60 to 90 grams of protein per day. Okay, so if you hold out your hand, the whole size of your hand, if you had a piece of chicken in your hand, that would be about 25 to 30 grams of protein. So if you're aiming for, let's say, 90 grams of protein, it would be like 3 chicken breasts over the day. A scoop of protein powder should have 20 to 25 grams of protein in it. You could add that to water for a real quick hit of protein. You can have your Greek yogurt or cottage cheese, which is high in protein, but you can pair all of that with your meals. So over the day, 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is essential for maintaining your muscle mass, and making sure that we are hopefully staying in that zone of not gaining body fat, preserving our muscle mass, but still feeling full and satisfied as well. So with that is also fiber. So again, same as protein, fiber is everywhere. Anytime you open up a new recipe or see something else on Instagram, they're talking about your protein and your fiber. It's kind of annoying, but also kind of great because it's bringing so much more awareness. Now, I find it helpful if you know roughly how much fiber you're having per day. And the goal would be about, I think they say 27, 28 grams. So I said 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. So 5 to 7 grams per meal or snack. Now, if you happen to notice, if you're just tracking your foods that you're having, let's say for a few days, and it seems like you are really low fiber, you want to be adding a little bit at a time. You don't want to go from having 10 grams of fiber a day to 25 grams or 30 grams of fiber or more. You don't want to be having way too much more because your system will probably take a bit of a beating, and I don't think it'll be very happy, if you know what I mean. So slowly increase it. You might notice some days it's easier to get more fiber in, and other days it might be a little bit harder depending on what is available to you. You're probably going to feel a lot better if you are hitting that 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. So you'll feel more full with your meals. You probably won't get as much of an energy crash because you're more dense. So you're getting more dense sort of nutrients and meals in you. But yeah, so what are some good fiber options for you? What you can do is adding fruit or vegetables in the whole state. So having a couple of carrot sticks in the afternoon with whatever snack you're having. It doesn't have to be on its own. Adding some berries to your oats, adding a spoonful or so of psyllium husk if you have to, so to a smoothie or to your oats. There's a lot of things that you can do to add little bits of fiber, but think of it as it's spread out throughout the day. You don't want to have 30 grams in one go. It's little bits added all throughout the day. And then over your week, having that boost of fiber in general will help everything feel quite good. Now, to balance your meals and snacks, we want to try to have that sort of balanced approach at every meal and snack. That's what I'm trying to say. So avoiding naked carbs. So what this means is if you're feeling quite peckish or hungry, quite often it's easy to just go and grab a handful of crackers or go grab a few rice cakes or grab a piece of bread from the pantry or something like that. What we want to do is always have a good source of protein and fiber at each meal or snack. So if you're reaching for an apple, grab a handful of nuts as well, or grab a piece of cheese with it, or slap some almond butter on it or something like that. So it's not just a carbohydrate. You want to add the protein and fiber as much as you can. So if you're having some carrot sticks, throw in some hummus as well, or have a piece of cheese if you're having an apple. You'll kind of get used to it as you pair things together. They don't always have to go right together. You can kind of eat one thing and then eat your apple as you run out the door. But yeah, you'll get used to pairing it so you're not just having what we call our naked carbs. So make sure that you get protein and fiber at each meal or snack. And then with this also comes hydration. So hydration is also everywhere. One thing that I've noticed a huge increase in is everyone trying to sell you a different version of an electrolyte drink. Now, if this helps you drink more water, that is totally fine, but you probably don't need them if you're getting enough water on a daily basis. I live in Perth. It gets quite hot here. So if I'm exercising in summertime and I notice that I'm sweating more, I love just having a nice big glass of cold coconut water. But I notice that I do sweat quite a bit. So sometimes just drinking water, it feels good to actually replenish with something with a bit more oomph to it. So for me, I like coconut water. Sometimes if we're out and about, I might grab a different drink. But for the most part, if I've had enough water, I don't feel the need to reach for anything else. Now, 2 liters a day is sort of standard. I would say that that should be everyone's minimum. And what I notice is that if I get to lunchtime and I have not had enough water, I feel super heavy, lethargic, cranky, really tired, and I feel like nothing is going to snap me out of it. And whenever I feel like that, I look down and I'm like, yep, I've had maybe 3 sips from my water bottle, and it's just not good enough. So for me, I'm just going to go to the next slide. It's that dehydration. So I don't feel thirsty, but I can tell that I'm dehydrated because those are just textbook symptoms of dehydration. So fatigue, mood swings, headaches, lack of energy, body aches, soreness. Being thirsty is usually one of the last signs that you are dehydrated. So if you actually feel thirsty, your body is probably already in a deep state of dehydration. Now, one of the best things you can do is check the color of your urine. That is the easiest way. So if it is quite yellow, then you're most likely dehydrated. If it's more on the clear side, if it's running pretty clear with a faint sort of pale yellow tinge, that's usually a good sign that you are hydrated. And also, do you measure your water intake? So 1 glass of water from your kitchen isn't necessarily 250 mils. I measured our glasses that we use, and they were, I think, 270 mils is what a standard glass of water was. And I went and got new glasses because I just wanted a bit of a refresher, but I measured it and it is 500 mils in one big glass. So it does make a difference to actually know how much you are drinking. So my water bottle that I would have for work is 750 mils. I try to drink a glass of water and my whole water bottle before lunchtime every day. And then I aim for another liter before dinner time. So I find that that's 2 kind of benchmark times during the day. So before lunchtime, so for me around 11 a.m., I try to make sure I've had a full liter, and then I drink another liter before we have dinner. And that usually sets me up for a pretty good day. If I have less than that, again, I get those horrible dehydration symptoms and I feel like I can't catch up later in the day. Now, some easy tips. You've probably seen these all before. It's very much so just common sense. Having a water bottle for the car. Drink a glass of water before your first coffee. So I try to drink my glass of water while I'm making my coffee. Drink a glass before or after you brush your teeth. Set a timer for every hour to remind you to get up and have a sip. So sometimes I'll do that and I'll actually be surprised as to why my alarm's going off and I haven't realized it has been that long. And I actually get up to the kitchen and I'll go and have a glass of water. So in perimenopause, again, the declining estrogen can actually reduce our body's ability to regulate electrolytes, so our sodium retention. It increases our risk of dehydration and it can increase our symptoms of hot flashes and brain fog. So again, we're just more susceptible and more sensitive to these symptoms now. All right, on to the third pillar of stress and rest. So it's more that mind-body component. Again, energy fluctuations, brain fog, decision fatigue, stress management, our social life and connection, and getting better sleep. So all of these are going to play into our ability to manage our stress and aid in our our rest and recovery. Now, in peri, we are also much more sensitive to our stressors. So what never bothered us before bothers us now. What used to be fine isn't fine anymore. So rest and recovery are more important than ever. And getting a good night's sleep is invaluable. And unfortunately, it's so much harder to achieve. So it's not as simple as going to bed early. However, if we can line up everything to give ourselves the best chance of better sleep, then we should. So, like I was saying before, now I know if I have a couple of wines, I'm going to feel like crap that night and probably not sleep. So, if I know that I need a good night's sleep, I'm just going to say no to the wine. Finding ways that we can reduce our stress and improve our recovery is going to be a key aspect of thriving in perimenopause. Allowing ourselves more time to recover from big events. So if we have a big night out or stressful work deadlines or a family holiday or just holiday gatherings like a big Easter dinner or, Christmas time, we just need to factor it in and give ourselves more rest. So more rest between workouts because it's not about doing more. So start factoring in things that fill your cup and recharge your batteries as a weekly occurrence and even on the daily. So this week, I'm running this event. I've got a full client load. My little guy has a few after school activities, and then we've got his birthday on the weekend. So a couple of weeks ago, was looking ahead and I thought, oh crap, this week is going to be pretty busy. We've also got a pupil free day on the Friday, so I've booked him into holiday care because it's a busy work day for me and my partner as well, so we can't have him at home. But yeah, so I've adjusted quite a few things in this week to make it just easier for myself. So it meant that I had to reschedule a client because it was way too rushed. She was fine with that. I readjusted his haircut appointment. So it was on a different day, not conflicting with being rushed to another event. And then also I've had to make sure that I've had dinner ready. So we have leftovers one night. We've got a freezer meal that I've done on the weekend. And there's another night where I can't remember what we're doing, but I've already planned ahead so that dinner is only going to take me 5 or 10 minutes to reheat. That way, my afternoons are so much easier and I can just take a breath and go, okay, this is already sorted and I don't need to rush into that. So little things like that, just looking ahead to help recalibrate and reduce my stress levels as well. Now, in terms of sleep, this is coming off of what I've researched with my clients and a lot of them that are having like night sweats and hot flashes. One of the things that they've said helps is to just make sure that you dress comfortably at bedtime, but also to have options nearby if you do wake up and you're covered in sweat and you've like soaked through your sheets. Have a towel nearby, have a mattress protector that you've used, or a quick change of sheets if you need to. And then also having just an extra pair of clothes by your bed. So the less time that you are awake, the better, as opposed to getting up, getting upset, trying to find clothes. Even if you save yourself 10 minutes, it can make the difference of getting yourself back to sleep. I'm lucky enough that I haven't experienced any of this yet, but I can't imagine that being fun to wake up completely soaked through your clothes. Also, earplugs or an eye mask or blackout curtains, because that can set up your room in a better environment for you to sleep. Adjust the temperature to suit you. So open a window, have a fan on, wear socks, whatever you need to do, but make sure that it suits you. And then trying to get to bed 30 minutes earlier than usual to wind down, play some soft music, dim the lights, read an easy book to read, or do some journaling, something to just declutter your mind, and see what works for you. So if that seems to help, then yep, keep up with that and see if that helps you just get to bed a little bit earlier to get a few more, even if you just got 20 minutes of extra sleep. If every week we make small little steps towards better sleep, in a few months' time, you might be having like really good sleep. So give it a try. Now, a little bit just to kind of recap the three pillars. So they do play a vital role in supporting you through perimenopause, the foundations of a healthier and happier you. And when all three of these pillars are focus of your weekly routine, you are setting yourself up for a better experience in perimenopause and beyond. And I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but it is totally true. So the whole point of this is to get you feeling better physically and setting you up to feel better for the rest of your life so that you have strategies in place that you can fall back on and support you. And if you go the hormone support route, which I'm a huge advocate for, your body will be in a much better starting point. So you'd be better prepared for it if you have all these foundations in place, and you should have a better experience. You can confidently tell your doctor all the positive things that you have already implemented. So if you go to your doctor and you say, this is my diet, this is what I've been trying to do more of, this is what I'm doing for this, and this is how I'm exercising, your doctor can go tick, tick, tick. All right, so you're doing all of these things already, and let's move on and move into this section. So it should help that whole experience be quite more flowy, let's say. So again, just putting together that diagram again. So with you in the middle and all the components of those three pillars, it is hopefully creating a much better sort of stack the deck in your favor, a much better experience to get you through all of these symptoms. Now, I'd like your guys' permission to discuss what the Perimenopause Project actually is, and I'd love to clearly explain it and why I created it. So a lot of the women that I speak to, they just feel stuck in the same place. So they either rely on personal training sessions a few times a week to stay on track, or they try to do it all on their own, following random workouts on Instagram that they've saved, or they don't actually do it, and second guessing their food choices and struggling to stay consistent. So somewhere in the middle, they fall off. Now, it's not because that they don't have another stop, or sorry, it's not because they don't want to have another stop cycle. It's not because they don't care, and it's definitely not because they aren't capable. I see it because they don't have the structure or the support that they need. So even my own clients who see me on a regular basis, I know that they could be skyrocketing their results if they had more consistency for when they can't make their sessions or for when I'm away, because I go to Canada about once a year and I'm gone for 3 to 4 and sometimes 5 weeks at a time. So that is one of the downfalls of personal training, but it doesn't have to be that way. And that's exactly the gap that I designed this program to fill. So people that are reliant on a trainer or those paid classes, but also there's that gap between doing that and then trying to do it on your own. We're trying to close that gap to make everything more accessible. So what is the Perimenopause Project? It's a 6-month online coaching program that gives you the guidance, structure, and accountability of a personal trainer without the appointments and with so much more support between your workouts. So it's designed to help you build a routine that actually fits your life so that you can stay consistent even when things are busy. So more consistency, more weekly support for exercise, nutrition, stress, and recovery. More of everything at a fraction of the cost. Inside the program, you're supported every step of the way. So as mentioned before, there's a 12-week beginner strength foundations program. So you know exactly how to start and there's no guesswork. You get a full workout library with 50 guided sessions. I think there's close to 60 sessions actually. And you can choose what works for you during whatever schedule and energy that you have at the moment. Every month we are adding workouts and sample meals and snacks. So you're always progressing, staying engaged, and getting better results over time. So it's actually quite dynamic. We're always adding to the value of the program. You get 5 of the simple education modules for exercise, nutrition, stress, and rest, the full overview of perimenopause, and the full workout library with downloadable resources. We also have access to the private members Facebook group where we have ongoing support, accountability, and connection with other women on a similar path. So you can always post all of your questions to the group. You can also post anonymously if you prefer. But then that way, people that are asking questions, you can all learn from each other and we can all do this together. We also do fortnightly group coaching calls. So you can ask questions, stay supported, and keep moving forward. So we have a topic that we release to you guys a few days ahead of time, and you can ask questions on that topic or something totally unrelated, and we will address that as well. And then a private coaching call with me that you get within the first 2 weeks of joining so that we can personalize everything, see where you're starting, go over your history, and make sure that you are on the right path within the program. So the program isn't about doing more or doing things perfectly. It's about having the right structure in place so that things finally start to feel easier. So women inside the program have been noticing the following. So the biggest thing would be the more consistent energy. So especially in the afternoons, feeling stronger and more capable and in less pain. Confidence in what to do. So creating balanced meals at home and even when they go out. A routine that they can actually stick to and feeling calmer, clearer, and more control again. So the consistency is probably the number one thing I would say because everyone has access to the home workouts. So on days that they wouldn't normally go and get a workout in, they're finding that they can add in something quite easily before they go to work or when they get home from work or even during their lunch break. So the 3 crucial ways that I help my clients progress is through the guidance and support. So especially nowadays when AI is so abundant. You are not a robot, so why are you considering asking a robot for their input? That's kind of how I see it. Hiring an expert to help you with the little questions, the big questions, and everything in between is where it's at. So it'll eliminate the all or nothing headspace, and rather than you doing nothing, you'll always be able to do something to help you progress. Community and accountability, so training amongst other women in similar stages is invaluable. So you'll learn so much from them, but you guys can also keep each other accountable, and hearing other people's stories will really help keep you on track. So, especially when we're going through such horrible symptoms, if you're finding little wins along the way, that can be really, really helpful for yourself and everyone else. And as I've mentioned before, the consistency with the home workouts. So you can still see your trainer, you can still go to other classes, but you also have access to all of the home workouts to keep you on track. So whether you're away on holidays, or if your trainer's away on holidays, or it's the holiday period and the hours are significantly reduced, you have every opportunity to keep up with your routine. So you still have the ability to just get things done. All right, so how can you work with me? So I am pretty strict, and I've only opened up a certain amount of spots each month, and I've only got 6 spots left at the moment, and that is part of my introductory offer, as this whole program has only just started in January. So this week lined up with the end of the month because of Exercise Right with Essa. So I was happy to be able to squeeze in the workout before the rate increase, because my rates go up on June 1st. And momentum is going, which is great, but I wanted to make sure that I saved a few spots for people that joined us today. Everyone registered for the event will have priority because you've already shown interest and you are here. And if you're still with me, then yes, hopefully you guys take advantage. So just a bit of a cost breakdown of what you might already be spending on your health and fitness. This is just a little bit of a breakdown of what people can be spending. It's kind of on the conservative side, I think. So if you just have a quick look, there's gym memberships, 1 PT session a month. Let's say you do 2 Pilates classes a week, a yoga class a week, and then time driving either side. So if you're, let's just say, a gym membership and 1 PT session a week, you're easily spending $300 to $400 a month, plus your petrol and all your time. Plus, if you miss those classes or sessions, you still get charged for them. So for 4 sessions a month and access to the gym, which you might not even be using if you're not with your trainer, that's a lot of money that you are already spending. So again, that doesn't include access to having home workouts and meal prepping advice and access to the private coaching group and all of that as well. Now, this is exactly the gap that I am trying to close. So from people spending too much money and not getting enough out of it to people that are doing it all on their own and still not getting out of it, I want to close up that gap and hopefully give it to everyone at a fraction of the price. So a 6-month investment to join the Perimenopause Project is only $14.97, and that is until June 1st. So like I said, I launched all of this in January with the intention of June 1st being my price increase. So since then, the program has evolved and things have increased. We're always adding to it on a monthly basis. So it just keeps growing. So if you do decide that you do want to work with me and start your journey to a more consistent and sustainable routine, right now is the perfect time. So not only will you save $500, but everyone who joins from this event will also receive an extra coaching call to use about midway through the 6-month mark. I'm not too strict on when that gets used, but you do get a coaching call included, which I do try to get everyone booked in the first 2 weeks. But with joining before June 1st, you guys are going to get an extra call, and that can be used, I'd probably say around the 2 to 3 month mark to make sure that you are on track. So it's an additional $225 bonus that you get, and that is free of charge when you join up before June 1st. So that call, it's about half an hour. Sometimes they go for about 30 to 35 minutes. The last couple that I did, we went almost a full hour, and that is totally fine because there's no cap on it. It's more to make sure that you get out of it what we need to get out of it. So I make sure that I don't have anybody booked like right after you, and there's also the follow-up with it as well. So I don't just leave you guys high and dry. This is my jam. I've been doing this for ages, and being able to support people is sort of how I thrive as well. So I always make sure that everybody gets what they want out of it and what they are expecting. So this is just another little breakdown of everything that is included. And yeah, so I'm going to go to my last slide here. At the bottom is the link if you are interested in joining, and I'm going to send out more details with the replay as well. But yeah, so I just think it's such a great offer. I'm pretty proud of it. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. Yeah, so I'm just going to go on to, I don't know if I'm doing this right. The stop share screen. So there I am. But yeah, so we'll wrap it up there. There's no pressure for anyone as well. And I'm totally reachable with DMs or on email as well. If you haven't been getting any of the emails, please check your spam for emails coming from Balanced Posture Online. And you can always check me out on Instagram as well. Now, in the chat here, while we are there, I am going to just put a couple of links so that they are there for you guys. I tried to do this all beforehand. So there is the link for the program. I'm also going to put the link for my private Facebook group if you would like to join. So this is for it's a private group, but it's for everyone who's not even a member yet. I've got a private members only group as well. But if you do want to join my Facebook group, you can always pop in there. I do share some resources and you can always ask questions in there as well. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for coming. And if you have any questions, please reach out because I do read every email and I do read all my messages and respond to people. So as you know, there's a human on the other side of this. So thank you, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carly.